Hello and welcome to another edition of the DP World Tour Picks and Bets. As you can see quite clearly, I'm not Skylar Hope, but I am hosting this week and I am here every week. And I'm joined today by Ryan Baroff. Ryan, you're back with us after, I think it was the Andalusia Masters at Valderrama. You were with us last time, so welcome back.
Yep, appreciate it, Tom. Thanks for having me, and I'll do what I can to step in Sky's shoes for today.
Yeah, we had what looked like it could have been a really exciting week last week. We had it's a couple of really good chances to win. Paul Waring, Jens Dantorp, Sami Välimäki, Ben Tario was there. Olesen as well. Like they were just all there, right? And you felt that pain, we felt that pain. I was pretty happy with the process, as I'm sure you were as well. And it's just one of those ones where sometimes it just doesn't go your way. I think Ramsey stepped up, down the back nine and kind of showed his winning experience and pedigree, and that's what you need sometimes on these golf courses.
Yeah, I mean, I think it shows, obviously, we were very close. And if you weren't looking at prices at all, Ramsey's probably top of the list, right? He had the trend, the strokes gained trend, the recent finishes, form, everything like that. So not a huge surprise that he got it done, and on to the next one.
Yeah, and I think you make a really good point. And it's something that I've kind of factored in a decent amount recently. Like, you can just be put off by a price, and really you probably shouldn't. I think I probably said on the show that I can't bet Richie Ramsey at 22-1 given his age and kind of length of time it's been since he last won. But when you think he's not actually that old, he's not even 40. I listened back to the kind of podcast I did with him last year, and he was kind of saying that he was actually ready to kind of retire at 40, which was something you don't normally hear out of golfers. But I think the emotion that he showed and celebration kind of suggested that there's been some frustration, there's been some injuries, but all in all, he's a guy that's used to winning and kind of plucked it out in the end.
Yep, absolutely. And again, maybe we're just overthinking it. If he's 28 instead of 22, do we bet it? I don't know, maybe not. But that field was really weak, and it was just perfect setup for him.
Yeah, I think I probably would have. Anything with a 3 in front of it, I probably would have bet him, and I probably should just if I'd take 33, I should probably take 25, right? It's just exactly. It's one of the things you probably learn. But I think that rolls us in nicely to this week with the Hero Open at Fairmont St Andrews. It's a 7,230-yard linked course, hosted the 2020 Scottish Championship and the 2021 Hero Open. Ryan, how much do you focus on links pedigree, course history, and just general Scottish, I guess, form? Because it's not an event that's been around for a long time. It's not an event that, we're used to seeing strong players in. So I think there can be some variance as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think, again, you just kind of have to make your manual adjustments. I'll go back through my same process as we've been doing for the last few months, all the stats, all the tee to green. I'm always going to start with that group. I'm not going to randomly pick someone who's not playing well because they're from Scotland, right?
Yeah.
But as I go through this, right, you look back and last year you had Forrest, Law, Connor Seam has done well here. Craig Howie has done well here. So I do think that element of the Scottish players is there. We've seen it with the British players as well, whether it be the Dunhill Links, whether it be the British Masters. They just play better. Ashley Chester's, Matt Southgate, they just play better here. So yes, you have to manually do it, but I'm not going to make any huge adjustments this week.
No, I don't think so. I think it's one of those ones where we've just been kind of, talking about Richie Ramsey and, whether you would take him at a price. And I think you've probably got to apply that sort of to the top of the board here as well. And, that doesn't lead me to take Ryan Fox at 10 or 11-1. I think probably that period of time is gone for me. I don't know. Do you think in terms of maybe DFS and stuff, do you think you'll be playing kind of Ryan Fox, or do you think you can kind of leave out hope that the form disappears a bit?
Yeah, I would say probably not, because again, there are so many good players, and we'll see where the pricing shakes out. But I think the high 7s, 8s, even low 9s is going to be stacked with all those guys that we bet this week. That I'll probably just make a team like that.
Yeah, I think so as well. So that just about Ryan Fox being the best in favourite, 11-10-1. Richie Ramsey coming in off his win last week. Best price I've got over here is 22-1. It brings me to my selection, which is Adrian Otaegui. And I've got to be honest, this is very much following that line of I don't want to just not bet people because of the price. Otaegui's made 13 of 15 cuts in 2022. He's 4th in tee to green and 12th in approach last week. He's been top 7 in both over the past 8 weeks. He won here on debut when it was a Scottish Championship, and he finished 38th in his defence last year. I would say defence, obviously a different event, but on the same golf course. He's 9th after round 1, still inside the top 25 after round 2. He's just a golfer that's playing very, very well, who's shown that kind of form on these golf courses. And he's had his little flirt with Liv and all that sort of stuff, and he's come away from that. But I don't know if this is one of those ones where like you have to factor, most you said about manual adjustments. Like he's been finishing well in stronger fields, and you kind of got to factor that in as well. So I think if you look back at the fact he was second at the ISPS Handa, fifth in Qatar, like they're probably both better events. Ras Al Khaimah probably a bit similar to what they got this week, the third. Has been a little bit underwhelming, I guess, in recent weeks. The 29th last week was average, and the 42nd at the Scottish Open when it was a better field kind of shows he's maybe not at the best. But the 18th for the Porsche and 15th for Sadal were comforting enough for me to believe that I can go back to someone that's played well at this course.
Yeah, for sure. I think he should be every bit the favorite, kind of with these other guys. Obviously, the fact that he's won here helps. He kind of went through that hump, like what you said. Back in Spain a few months ago, kind of played well, and I kept betting him then, and he didn't get there. But of the guys who are in this field, I have him fourth tee to green last week and fourth tee to green at the Scottish. So both of his last two starts against these players, he's been great. He just needs to make some putts. That's really about it. He's gonna hit a lot of fairways. He's gonna be fine with the irons. He even chips okay. Just got to make some putts.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to a little bit of variance like that it's pretty good, right? Like on a course where you've seen him do it in the past, links can get funky at times as well. There could be potential weather splits and things that we don't know about at this time, but we'll see how those come. But the next kind of person up in the betting that you're interested in was Callum Shinkwin. And I've got to be honest, he was a guy that really came up on my radar in terms of the ball striking. And when Callum Shinkwin's doing that, you do have to kind of take notice, I think.
Yeah, again, like I think he's the perfect type of player who you make an adjustment for on these sort of links courses, and really played better than he finished last week. Had that one bad round on Saturday where I don't think he made a birdie, did he?
Yeah, he did. He was terrible. Yeah.
I guess he was due for some regression because he made a bunch of eagles like early in the week. But yeah, I mean, he's an awesome ball striker. He hits it a mile. He loves links. He scores. He played well here back in 2021. His strokes gained tee to green has really just been awesome for the last 6, 7, 8 events, making a lot of cuts. So I wasn't going to bet him because I think I saw 25 at the Open, and then I got a 40. So it'll be 40.
Yeah, exactly that. And, 24 for the Irish Open, you've got to factor in a decent strength of field there. 16th, like you said last week, where he just had that one bad round. And you're right, 3 bogeys to, 15 pars. Like, that's not going to get it done on a course like that. But it also shows that there was nothing horrendous and nothing to really worry about. And it's really weird with Callum Shinkwin. We kind of, or I at least kind of thought that he'd kick on from that Cyprus Open win. Like, I think he's a player that really struggled to really break through. We had a second place finish at the Scottish Open when he lost in the playoff to Rafa Cabrera-Bello, who shot a 64 to even get in that playoff, right? So I think he was slightly unlucky not to get his first win there. We've seen it in the Kazoo Open, another time in the Scottish Open as well. So generally speaking, like you say, Dunhill Links 10th. He is a guy that just plays this part of the world well. Yeah. Like you say, he's in good form. So that 40, even at 33, I think is a good number. I think it's just one of those ones where you probably don't want too many at the top in an event like this, and you just got to kind of make your pick. So I kind of went for Taggy, and you went with Shinkwin. I think between the two of us, I think we'll probably have someone contending there on Sunday.
For sure.
You've gone back to the well with someone that I was on last week, and I think you were on as well with Paul Waring. It's always been with me, like, it's really, you don't expect Paul Waring to be this guy that's revolutionised his off the tee game at the age that he is, and the stage of his career that he's in. But that is exactly what he's done. And did you see? I mean, I just thought he was pretty impressive on the final round. Like, I know he had those bogeys on 1 and 10. It looked like it's kind of ruined, but I think when it came up to it, the way he played the final couple of holes was really impressive. And he probably had a chance to make that eagle putt on 17, and he had a birdie look on 18 as well. So he wasn't unlucky. I think Ramsey won it, but I think he played well enough to give you confidence.
Yeah, for sure. I think, I was late to Waring by a week, obviously, and we may have reached the point where he just peaked and it's going to fall off. It's very possible. I got an 80 this morning. So it was a number that you couldn't pass up, right? Like that's just huge. But yeah, I mean, like what you said, it was a great week last week, but it's been brewing. Like at the Sudal, he was good, made the cut, it was really good tee to green. At the Volvo, kind of same thing. I think he missed at the Irish, but the ball striking was still really good, right? And then the ball striking was great. Opened with a 63, obviously made a lot of putts last week. Let's go ahead and go back there one more time. And he's done well here as well. So
Yeah, and I just think he's just the type of guy that, you can rely on. It's weird because I say that, and then every time I go to bet him after a good week, he has a bad week. But he had that 25th place finish in the
Yeah.
Scottish Championship on debut. He was actually 5th at the 36-hole stage, 10th after the 54-hole stage, and just kind of slipped over the weekend. But I don't necessarily mind that. Like, I think he's a volatile player by nature. When you look at where he's done his best stuff, Nordea Masters is a pretty wide open layout. Dunhill Links, he was third, second last week. Like,
yeah, but you want spike weeks, right? Like, I love the consistency of Ramsey, which we saw, and it obviously went to a win. But for these sort of guys at 80 to 1, 100 to 1, it's a spike week, and he has had a spike week before. He had a couple this year, and try and get one more.
Yeah, no, I like that. Absolutely. I think it's one of those ones where, you just take it and hope that he carries on. So it was Garrett Porteous next up for me at 50 to 1. I think, we were speaking before we came on. He's someone that you're into as well. 16th last week. He was second after round one. And for some reason, he kind of flashed up to me last week. I never actually went there. I didn't really have the faith in Garrett Porteous that, for some reason I've placed in this week. But, when you look at how he did it last week, like it was pretty impressive. And I think he can carry that on in a place where he's actually played well before.
Yeah, I think he had a run quite like this last year, right? Where there's a bunch of top 20, top 30s, but the ball striking was just great. Like even the bunch of cuts that he's missed recently, his stroke gain tee to green's been fine. He was really good here, like what you said last year. Awesome last week in terms of kind of ball striking, stroke gain tee to green. Played well at the BMW also. And yeah, again, if the price is right, I think he's a great fit here.
Yeah, and like his 4th and 10th place finishes here are his 2nd and 6th best finishes ever according to OWGR. And when you see that, like I've tried to steer away from course form in recent months just because I got too caught up in it. But like that stands out to me, and especially coming off a hot week. And like you say, 2nd in tees green last week, 16th in approach, and he had 2 top 6 rounds with his irons last week as well. So although it wasn't consistently great with his irons all week, like there was 2 really big flashes, and I think if he can get off to a good start with those again. I think we're looking good as well. So next up for you is another Darius Van Drill, who, again, like we've just been seeing flashes of him pretty consistently. And he's definitely one of those spike week candidates, I think.
Yeah, and I think we've seen it before, right? It's someone who unlikely to win, but he can win. And really, kind of this whole stretch that we've been looking at since Spain, right? Like right after the Masters. He's just been making a lot of cuts. Ball striking's been good. His last 3 have been really good. He dropped off a touch last week. And so again, maybe he's a plateau candidate as well. But again, I got 100 to 1. It's a number that I couldn't pass up. And I think just a very consistent ball striker and a guy who can play well on kind of this style of golf course as well.
Yeah, and just like you look at it and the fact that he's won twice on the Challenge Tour, he's won on the Alps Tour, he's been second twice on the DP World Tour. Like it's come in, you would think, and that's you can rely on him in a ball striking standpoint. Recently, 10th for the BMW International, I think was pretty good off the back of that 3rd place finish at the Volvo as well, or probably 4th by the time you put Lynn Grant in there because OWGR don't acknowledge that. But it's just the way that he shot 67 and 64 at that BMW International Open in the middle and just had that kind of not bad final day. It was like a 72, and I think the scoring was actually pretty tough there. So. I think just the way that he can flash those low rounds, definitely even like a first round leader candidate as well. I think he's a good player for that.
Yeah, no, for sure. In that a BMW of the guys here in the field, I have him 4th tee to green, so he was definitely good there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like it. I think he's one of those guys that it's weird. Like you think you can trust them, and that sounds weird for someone like Darius Van Drill, but I think in the limited field that we've got here, and the way that he's playing, I think he is a candidate for that. So. This guy that's coming up for me now is someone that is the bane of my life. I think it was it our show at Valderrama where he played really well for 2 rounds and then got going. James Morrison, I can't remember who it was there, but I bet him before, and he shot an opening round 60 or 61, and I thought that was it for us. But he fell off. But James Morrison, he's finished 13th at the Irish Open among his run of 4 straight made cuts. He was 20th in the strokes play scoring at the Barracuda, and he now returns to Fairmont, where he was 30th on debut and 2nd last year. And he climbed every day last year, which I really liked. And, you can't really say it was steady when he, finishes with a 63, but it was just, he built up to that, and it looked like that was the kind of thing that you can do. And I think James Morrison's been around long enough now that we know he struggles to win, but we know he gets himself into contention a lot, and we know that he can keep it hot. And I think that, even like when he was 66th at the International Open, he showed some bits there as well. So I think those run of 4 events that he's had right now, and even before that, like there was a couple of miscuts at the Stow and the Dutch, but he was actually 33rd in Catalonia, 27th at the British Masters. Like he's playing well where you expect him to, and even going right back to the start of the year, 6th at Abu Dhabi, like he's been in good form for a decent amount of time.
Yeah, for sure. Lots of good tee to green weeks, like what you said. And I think, it's kind of interesting. He finished 26th at the Barracuda, where a lot of those Euro guys were. A lot of those guys are coming over back here. And I think that really gives them a lot of confidence, right? I mean, all those guys that we talked about near the top with Kofstedt and Marcus Hellingkild and Long, I think they're all great plays, and they're going to take a lot of confidence from that, as will James Morrison. He he played well at the Irish. He played well at the Scottish. Just seems to be right on that sort of upward trend. So I am with you on James Morrison.
Yeah, James Morrison was 60 at the European Masters, not Valderrama, which would have been absolutely ridiculous. But he was actually 4th at Valderrama as well. So he tends to do this. He tends to perform at the same kind of courses all the time as well, which I like. So yeah, I'm happy to see what James Morrison does. And I think this is kind of the range, right, Ryan? Like, we spoke about the guys you just said that they're returning from America. I chucked Marcel Schneider in there as well, like just playing some, really good stuff. And at this top of the market, like people that we've skipped over, like you got Romain Langasque that's been in good form for a good period of time. Got Oliver Becker in good, form for a good period of time. But like they're not guys that I'm going to bet at 25 and 22 to 1s. I'd rather get double the odds of these guys that we're talking about. And I think just backing the upside of them, I think there's plenty to see.
Yeah, I think again, there's just guys that I could do Campillo, I could do Rosner, I could do Nemitz, like all those. I'm just not going to do it anymore.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? I think it is one of those weeks where like I never struggled to find a bet. I did struggle to whittle it down, and then eventually, like I said to you earlier, I just had to shut down the laptop because I was starting to get some really horrible names. But coming back to the Scottish angle, then we've got David Law, who for a decent period of time looks like a player that's going to break through. He does it in different ways, but generally can be sort of short game driven. But he was 4th at the Irish Open, which again, when we talk about the strength of field, they're really, really good. 47th at the Scottish is not bad considering the kind of pressure that he'd be playing there. And, he didn't do a lot at the Open Championship, but 72nd, making a cut that a lot of better guys didn't. He actually had 2 rounds of 69 there as well. So it was actually just a 77 on Saturday that really put Sword to a better finish for him.
Again, I think a lot of confidence. This is was probably a very important summer for him. He got into the Scottish Open and played really well and made the cut. He got into the Open Championship and played pretty well and made the cut. He obviously almost won here last year, and just has that perfect upward trajectory that I'm looking for. He certainly missed a couple of cuts this spring, but almost every week his tee to green has been great. And again, he's certainly going to get the bump up from the Scottish angle. So big fan of Law this week.
I think what I like about him as well is that like where some people can kind of shy away from playing at home, like again, he's a little bit like Robert McIntyre that seems to step up to playing in his home events. He won the Scottish Hydro on the Challenge Tour. Like you say, he had a chance to win here last year and finish 4th. And like you say, like that Scottish Open, the way he played, like although he's only finished 35th and 47th in Scottish Opens in the past, like he needed to play well in those events, like to earn a lot of points. He struggled to even get in it this year and stepped up when he needed to. So all good signs.
Yeah, and even the event that he won down in Australia, right? That's links open, kind of windy type of thing, as well as like what you said, he won in Scotland on the Challenge Tour. So
yeah, and I think like the way he won that Vic Open as well was like he shot a fun around 66, and I know that you could probably argue that the chasing pack are not the strongest, but Brad Kennedy, Wade Ormsby, and Jason Scrivener are all Australians. You had Justin Harding, who is a decent player as well, and when you actually look at that list, like you talk about the players that we've kind of mentioned already, Callum Shinkman was tied 10th. Ashley Chesters is someone that we probably end up talking about at some point, finished 12th. Brian Forrest, 22nd. Like you do seem to get those kind of crossovers between Scottish event and Australian events. So maybe something else there to add to the list for David Law. I wouldn't say it was a factor in deciding on him, and I don't think necessarily you thought that, but like it is a bonus, I think.
Yeah, no, for sure. Absolutely.
Then I came to another enigma in Eddie Pepperell, who every time, I will warn everyone with this, every time I go with Eddie Pepperell, I seem to miss the good weeks. I struggle to get him right, but 14th for the Dutch Open, 11th last week, a book-ending 3 missed cuts. But he was 15th for the ISPS Handler in Spain. We know he's a guy that kind of plays well in the British Isles. He's won the British Masters, second at the Scottish Open, one in Qatar where there's wind. Even like the best finish ever, like the Players, like he plays well in these kind of random spike weeks, like you say, and fourth at Scottish Open in 2015. Like he's done his best stuff in either Scotland or England. And when I looked at it, like I actually just looked at location form on like tour tips, and over the last 15 starts in Scotland, he's top 3 in this field, and the only 2 people above him have played like 1 or 2 events, so they don't really count.
Yep.
He's made 12 starts in that time, 4 top 10s, 3 top 17s, and he was 16th in the Scottish Open when it was here, and Scottish Championship, sorry, when he was here, and he was 5th after 54 holes as well. So really like the basic like line of what Pepperell's been doing in these sort of events. And then you add in the fact that he was 8th in tee to green last week. I think that's a really good sign.
Yeah, and really, I mean, he's been doing it since Spain again. I mean, all those weeks, I think there was a miscut in there, but he's basically making every cut and gaining tee to green. We know he's a great links player. He's a big form player for sure. He needs to take confidence with him. There's no doubt about that. And honestly, if like we're talking about all these guys, if you made me pick one bet this week, it would be him at 66 with the each way places. He is my favorite bet of the week. And
I think what I like about Eddie Pepperell is that like we just know he can win. Like he's done it twice in 1 year. He can ride hot form. Like 2018 was when he had 3 of his best 4 finishes on tour, and was actually 6th in the Open Championship as well. So, I don't think he's in the 2018 form that he was in, but the ball striking, certainly last week, 3rd of his irons as well. Like, there's definite signs. And I wonder if, Ryan, I don't know if you ever factor anything like this in, but like, he's been interviewed a lot recently about the live stuff. And like, one of his best friends is Laurie Cantor, and he's basically been digging them out, left, right, and centre, saying about, that he's not angry, but he's disappointed type speech. And I just wonder if that's a bit of motivation for him to kind of pick himself up and play a bit of better golf as well. Hard to quantify, but
I think so. I think he's just, it doesn't matter how you feel about it. He's seeing his friends get opportunities. And I think he also recognizes now that there's more opportunity for him.
Yeah.
He could get hot and make a Ryder Cup team. Like a lot of guys are not going to be there, right? He could get hot and make a Ryder Cup team. He could earn a PGA Tour card, right? There's a lot of things that he can play for now.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. That like maybe a lot of these players hardly haven't thought as much as you have about it. Like they're just so in the bubble, right, that they need to probably screw their heads on and realize that. And maybe things change by the time that selection comes around. But it's definitely something worth considering. In this range, before we sort of move on to kind of our deeper picks, I did look at Brandon Stone, who's won in Scotland before. I think he's been playing some good stuff. Ewan Ferguson, obviously that Scottish angle and tee to green stuff has been pretty good, even when he's been missing cuts. So they were 2 guys that I thought were worth looking at and maybe worth playing in DFS, but couldn't really get there in bets.
No, yeah, like I think there's a few there that I look at. I like a guy like Brandon Stone, who certainly has the upside for a win. He was on the short list. I think Scott Jamieson, kind of an interesting name here too, if you are going to weigh the Scottish angle. And then Andy Sullivan, who played well last week. He's been very up and down, but he's had a couple of spike weeks in terms of his putting, and he can win, right? So I think he's an interesting one this week too.
Yeah, Andy Sullivan is one of those ones where like I was really worried about him like late last year. I can't remember what event it was that he played poorly at, that he nearly always plays well at, but like he was just in dire straits, wasn't he? Scott Jameson's an interesting one because he played that PJ Tour stuff. We'll come back to Sullivan, but like with Scott Jameson, he finished 54th at the Barbasol, 22nd at the Barracuda. Which is, not necessarily that surprising. He's got a base in Florida. I think it's something we kind of talk about when we talk about Scott Jameson, but he still has that kind of European Tour, Scottish links pedigree that you like to see as well. And at the start of the season, he certainly looked like the player that was going to break through and get a win that matches that, whatever it was. I think it was like 36-hole victory that he got at the Nelson Mandela Championship all those years ago.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, again, he's someone who I think is ready to win, and he can win, and will probably take a lot of confidence from making both those cuts in the States.
Yeah. Coming back to that Andy Sullivan point that you were going to make before I rudely cut you off there.
Yeah. I mean, I just think with Andy Sullivan, like I don't like to chase a hot putter, but he has had a couple of starts recently where the tee to green was there. He missed the cut at the Scottish Open, but the ball striking was a lot better. He missed the cut at the Dutch, but he was basically at the top, strokes getting tee to green for the first couple of rounds. And so if he's able to do that, and he's able to putt well and just get it together, I think he's an interesting dart throw this week.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things that like you talk about people with high upside and whether they can win. Like it's really helpful that he had that 3-win season in 2015, which is obviously like a complete spike and an anomaly. But like the fact he then came back in 2020 and won during that COVID sort of season.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it's Andy Sullivan or Sean Crocker, right? Who's got a better chance to win for 50-1? It's going to be Andy Sullivan who's done it, and not Sean Crocker, who's probably the worst putter in the world right now.
And we probably put Justin Walters in that same sort of category of guys that, have been very consistent, but just don't seem to get over the line.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. Am I up with Connor Seam now? Is this the last one?
Let's go for that.
Basically, I did not want to bet him. I was actually surprised that he popped up when I was kind of going through some stuff. And then I was even more surprised that he was around for 100-1. I think with the places, he is just a great candidate, right? He played well here back in 2020. I don't think he finished that well, but he made the cut. His most recent best starts, right, were at the British and the Scottish. Not really a big surprise there. He's played well in Wales also. Obviously been very close to winning, hasn't done it yet. I think nothing would mean more to him than doing it here. His stroke gain tee to green, of the guys here who played the Scottish, who made the cut, he was first. So I found that really interesting in terms of that kind of upward trend on these sort of linksy golf courses. And for 100-1, you need a lot less than that. So.
Yeah, and I think as well, like I always, it's a dangerous game to play, and for some reason I keep playing it. But like I tend to throw out like a player like this is worse one round at like the Scottish Open. I shot a Saturday 74 when he got off to a pretty steady start with a 70 and 69, close of a 70 as well. Like, you suddenly take 4 of those away and he's inside the top 16. And I know you can't just do that. You can't just give them 4 shots that they definitely lost. But to me, like it just shows that he wasn't that far away from it. He hasn't played since then. That was like one of his better finishes over the last 5 or 6 events. So if that's the kind of level that he was playing at, what does a 42nd in the Scottish Open compare to this event for a start? And then you give that one bad round. I think it's good stuff.
And I think it's interesting, when you look at form and trends, and a lot of guys, need to come in after a good week. His third at the British, it was off of miscut. And at the Scottish, it was off of miscut. So he is the type of guy who, when he gets on a traditional windy links golf course, he just feels good, and it doesn't really matter what the form is. It helps that he's had a couple of good starts, but I just think it's a perfect spot for him.
Yeah, and I think, things change so quickly in golf, but like 2020 during that COVID season, like he was, prime candidate to win, right? It looked like it was going to happen on any given week. Like he was 10th in Oman, 4th in Austrian, and 3 straight top 8 finishes. I think he probably should have won one of those in the end, but like, it's tough to say people should win one. Like he'd only just won the Challenge Tour the year before. He'd already had a second at the Shot Clock Masters 2 years before that. Like it's hard to just say he should have won one. Like
you're bringing up scar tissue there, where he topped that iron on 18, and then I had Soderbergh who made triple on the last one.
That's let's not recount memories like that, otherwise you'll end up checking yourselves back into asylums after those kind of things. I'm still kind of recovering from last week. Like, to have 3 or 4 guys inside the top 10 and not get anything out of it in terms of winning equity was pretty annoying. But before we kind of move on to some longer shots, just want to sort of reiterate that if you listen to us in audio format, check us out on Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets The Mix, which you can find on all of our podcast platforms as well. So if you don't want to look at mine and Ryan's face for any reason, I would be highly offended, but you can go and listen to us. So that brings me on to Chase Hannah, Ryan, who this is just a gut feeling that for some reason Chase Hannah can just spike. He was 6th here on debut last year, and he does just flash at any point, and it never seems to be the easiest to predict in terms of, and I'm not looking at him, I didn't even look at his ball striking numbers because they're just, they could be great, they could be poor. I don't think it really matters. I think just when he feels comfortable, he can go well. And the upside is that he finishes inside the top 5. Like we saw it at the British Masters, he was 6th. We saw it at Stowe, he was 4th. He was 2nd at the Qatar Masters. I think the Qatar and British Masters are both kind of good signs for this. He then went back over to he went to the PGA Tour events that were co-sanctioned and didn't do a lot. He finished 68th at the Barbasar, missed the cut at the Barracuda, and I think he was one of those guys that I was kind of thinking he could be a good candidate just because he was American. He was kind of going home, maybe feels comfortable. But by the same point of that, like, I wonder if he's the type of person that puts too much pressure on himself because that's where he ultimately wants to be. And those two starts could have changed, everything. So I think now he's back to familiar territory, playing in a course that he's played well before. Chase Hanna at triple digits always seems to catch the eye.
Yeah, definitely interesting. He can make birdies. There's no doubt about that. I know. I don't know if it was the Brit. I think it was both the British and the Soudal. He was really close in terms of tee to green. I mean, both top 10s. Obviously, was playing well, so he can do it. I don't know what happened the last month or so. Maybe he was hurt. Who knows? But yeah, if you're looking at a spike week candidate, I think he's a perfect type of guy.
Yeah, and like it would be no surprise to me if he misses a cut by 8 or contends. Like there is very little in between with Chase Hanna, and I kind of like that though. It means that you get these kind of 100-1 prices. You're not betting them at 33-1 trying to chase it. Like that can happen.
Yeah.
You talked about guys and just adding people on at the end in terms of triple digits and things like that. Is there anyone in this triple digit range that, like, if they win, you're going to be absolutely devastated, or is it just one of those ones where like they just didn't quite do enough?
Yeah, I mean, I would say probably not. Like, there are a few guys in here. It's just a matter of kind of weighing the winning upside versus, okay, they're playing well right now and they can crack a top 10, maybe get a place and that sort of thing. But yeah, I think Matt Baldwin is a very interesting one. He's, again, very old guy in terms of how long he's been out here doing this, but he's won multiple times on the Challenge Tour, played well here, definitely gets that sort of links bump. And there were guys, I believe, talking about him last week. So it's like he's been on the radar a little bit. He's a very interesting one. And then just kind of one more for the Scottish angle, Craig Howie. I don't know if the winning upside is there. He has won a Challenge Tour event against a lot of these guys, so it's possible. But I think I would be frustrated if one of those two guys got it done this week.
Yeah, I think especially with Baldwin, like Brad was on him on our podcast last week, and he's just a guy that when he plays in this part of the world, you kind of give him a second look, I think, because he is very much a home player. He doesn't necessarily go and perform well everywhere else. And I say home, he's obviously not Scottish, but it's familiar surroundings. And he's 9th here on debut. He played the links golf well, and that's two candidates that you want to see already. And he shot the ball okay last week. Like he was 37th with his irons. He was 17th tee to green, which is nice. So I like both those things.
Yeah, like I would expect Howie to finish, between 25th and 40th this week, right? So not worth a bet, but if you need a lower pick for DraftKings to round out your team, I think he makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, again, like another guy that if you look, like 5th at the UK Championship last year, 12th at Qatar Masters, nice and open, and the wind affected options there. And like I say, just 29th at the Kazoo last week, 14th at the Volvo, 30th at the Hander, like 12th in Qatar again. Like actually, he's probably just a prime candidate for like a top 40 bet if that's something that you like doing. He's definitely someone that you can probably rely on at a cheap price in DFS as well. So do like those. I think they're good things there. I did look at Alvaro Quiros, which is horrendous. He was 16th here last year. He had 2 rounds of 66 and a 69, but was just offset by a 73. When you look at his last 3 starts in Scotland, 18th, 16th, and 27th, like he just seems to play his part of the world well. We know he's played well at Dunhill Links in the past. We know he's won wind-affected things. So it wouldn't surprise me if Quiros was just one of those guys that's there for 36 holes and everyone gets really excited because he's a guy that's won so many times on tour, and the commentary team get way too carried away and say that Quiros is coming back and he then just dips away on Sunday. But, it's just someone to look at.
Yeah, I mean, if it works and he's got an early tee time, maybe first round leader type of thing for him. Because there really is no rhyme or reason where he plays well. Like you want the exposed, windy, off the tee stuff, but then he'll go low at Valderrama. You just don't know.
No, he's a very difficult player to predict, and he's not someone that I'm going to try and predict too often. You did mention Angel Hidalgo to me, or Angel Hidalgo to me earlier on in I think off air actually, but I think that's a guy that's someone that we can look at who seems to be a bit of an improver, and he's not that old either. So I think there's definitely some room for improvement.
Yeah, again, like he caught my attention last week with the tee to green game, of course. But I went back and looked, right, and he made the cut in Spain. And was really good tee to green there. He made the cut at the Soudal. Was really good tee to green there, and he's won on the Challenge Tour last year, right? Against a lot of the guys who are here. So he can do it for 110-1. Will he do it? I don't know, but his last 3 starts have been really good.
Actually, if you look at kind of if you isolate just his DP World Tour starts, they're actually pretty impressive. Like, he was 5th at the Joburg Open, which finished prematurely. He was 10th at the Pied Data, 17th at the Kenya Open, missed the cut on guitar, which is not a great surprise. But then 30th in Spain, like you said, 55th in Catalonia the week after, 15th at the Sadao. Did miss the cut of the Dutch and has been doing International Open, but again, 8th last week. Like, it seems to be that actually when he steps up and has the opportunity, he does take it. And, you know, so he's won on the Challenge Tour, like you said. He's won twice on the Alps Tour in the same year. So it feels like he's actually just on that big upward trajectory. And that's probably a good sign for people at 110-1, as opposed to the Lucas Bjerregaards and the people like that you're trying to chase, that he's going to channel something from old or tap in.
Yeah, no, I mean, you certainly never know. And again, winning breeds winning, right? Like, you talk about, I guess, a guy like Matt Wallace, right, who came up really quickly and he was winning, and it was very clear that he was a step above the rest. For Challenge for this year, you know, Marcus Hellingkild, he won a bunch. Like, I think it matters. So yeah, I definitely have some interest in him, but maybe just top 20 or something like that.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's one of those ones where maybe not yet ready to win, but no reason to think that he can't. Like, he's obviously, like you said, had that recent experience and hasn't got any scar tissue yet. Is something I like. Like, he's getting up there inside the top 10, top 15 without actually throwing things away, which is good.
Absolutely.
The other one candidate I keep trying to go to, and I know Sky likes him as well, is Gavin Green. He was 3rd in the Saudi in 2020.
Yep.
You know, he's won before in Asia. He's had a couple of second place finishes on tour. And when you look at where he's done well, Irish Open 9th, British Masters 9th, Qatar 5th. Like, it's all the kind of things that you want to see. Cyprus Showdown was a pretty decently open track. Like, again, he's someone a little bit like Quiros. He does seem to play well on these tighter tracks when you don't expect it. But yeah, like 26th last week. I'm pretty sure he struck the ball well. If I just bring up the numbers.
Yes.
He was 34th tee to green last week, and he was 2nd in approach. So
he was pretty good tee to green in Spain, and at the British Open, I think he gained as well. So, like, and there's been a couple of weeks, and he can have a spike putting week. Obviously, we've seen that happen before. So, very interesting name there, definitely.
Yeah, I think if I was going to add on anyone to my betting card, it would probably be Gavin Green, and that is something that I will look at doing later on in the week. As much as I probably shouldn't just keep tinkering with it and just finding more reasons.
I'm gonna have 8 guys. Like, there's no doubt. Like, it's just gonna be that week, and hopefully I get a couple places in there, and it's a good week.
The worst ones, the Rocket Mortgage is basically exactly the same on the PGA Tour. There's plenty of guys that want to bet there as well. So we'll kind of have to just kind of restrict myself at some point. But any further thoughts on this event before we kind of sign off here and round up our card?
No, but you just kind of reminded me one kind of quick thing that I'll give, because my first 2 long shots there were also English guys, Callum Tarrant and Matt Wallace. So let's just go all Euro this week. Lots of wedge play. Lots of birdies, and but no, it's just such a boring event and a boring course. Like, the field is better, but it's like the most mundane, boring, average, neutral course. I just don't enjoy that event at all.
Yeah, I think actually the 3M Open felt like that. The course is actually pretty decent. Like, you see,
at least there's water and guys are making 10s. Like, you're not going to be any 10s this week.
Yeah, like the QAnon Scott Piercy blowout yesterday was pretty exciting. So you know, that was certainly something you get to see. But I think, in terms of golf courses, this is going to be the more interesting one to see. St Andrews is obviously not St Andrews, but it's, you know, nicely placed on the Scottish links there. So something to look forward to. So I'm going to round up my betting card here with Adrian Otaegui at 21-1, Eddie Pepperell at 50-1, Garrett Porteous and James Morrison at 60-1, Chase Hanna at 110-1, and I don't know what to do with Gavin Green, but I may put him in. But Ryan, I'll let you summarise your picks for us.
Yeah, perfect. So I am also on with you, Morrison and Pepperell. And then I have 40-1 on Shinkwin. I have Law at 65. I got Waring at 80, Van Driel at 100, and Connor Seam at 100.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those ones where, like, definitely want to shop numbers and definitely want to just keep an eye on things, because but they're just all over the place. Like, it's an interesting one that people just don't quite know how to handicap this field, I don't think. We seem to see a bit of it over in the UK, but you know, it's good that you can get a bit of an edge on some prices over there on some guys that maybe don't stand out week to week until these shows come out and we're betting them. So Ryan, thank you as ever for joining us in replacement for Sky. I know he very much appreciates it, and I do too. So thank you for coming on, and look forward to next time again.
I appreciate it, and let's have a better Sunday.
Let's do it. I hope so. Can't get much worse.
I know.